doesn't want to fight. Krishna's explaining why Arjuna is on the wrong track. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribrajikacharya Astotra Shatashi Shimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Skaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavanam Ki Jai Navarit Mahapodam Ki Jai Gangamai Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Maharani Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai all glories to all the assembled devotees, all glories to all the assembled devotees, all glories to all the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Today we're reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 2, text 35 and 36. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vayadranaruparatam mamsyante tvam maharata yesham chatvam bahumato bhutva yasyasi lagyavam Vayadranaruparatam mamsyante tvam maharata Yesham chatvam bahumato bhutva yasyasi laghavam. Word by word. Bhayat, out of fear. Ranat, from the battlefield. Uparatam, ceased. Mamsyante, they will consider. Tvam, you. Maharataha, the great generals. Yesham, for whom? Cha, also. Tvam, you. Bahumataha, in great estimation. Bhutva, having been. Yasyasi, you will go. Lagavam, decreased in value. The great generals who have esteemed your name and fame will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you insignificant. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Lord Krishna continued to give his verdict to Arjuna. Do not think that the great generals like Duryodhana, Karna, and other contemporaries will think that you have left the battlefield out of compassion for your brothers and grandfather. They will think that you have left out of fear for your life. and thus their high estimation of your personality will go to hell. Next verse. Avash, avash, avachya vadangscha bahun vadashyanti tavahitaha nindantas tava samartyam tato dukataram nukim avachya vadangscha bahun vadishanti tavahitaha nindantas tava samartyam tato dukataram nukim. Word by word. Avachya, avachya, unkind. Vadan, fabricated words. Cha, also. Bahun, bahun, many. Vadishanti will say. Tava, your. Ahitaha, enemies. Nindantaha, while vilifying. Tava, your. Samartyam, ability. Tataha, than that. Dukataram, more painful. Nu, of course. Kim, what is there? Translation. Your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scorn your ability. What could be more painful for you? Purport. Lord Krishna was astonished in the beginning at Arjuna's uncalled for plea for compassion, and he described his compassion as befitting the non-Aryans. Now, in so many words, he has proved his statements against Arjuna's so-called compassion. Actually, I'll read the next verse. I've said I was going to do 36, but I'll do 37 too because the purport is very small. Hatova prapsyasi swargam jitva va bhakshasi mahim tam sad utishta kontaya yudaya kritanishchaya. Synonyms. Hataha, being killed. Va, either. Prapsyasi, you gain. Svargam, the heavenly kingdom. Jitva, by conquering. Va, or bhaksyase, you enjoy. Mahim, the world. Tasmat, therefore. Utishta, get up. Kontaya, O son of Kunti. Yudhaya, to fight. Krita, determined. Nishchaya, in certainty. Translation. O son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore, get up with determination and fight. Purport. Even though there was no certainty of victory for Arjuna's side, he still had to fight, for even being killed there, he could be elevated into the heavenly planets. Okay, great. So I'll just go back to the translations. The purports are very short in this section, and I'll read the translations. And I'll just rewind a little bit as well. People will always speak of, this is text 34, people will always speak of your infamy, and for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you've left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you insignificant. Your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scorn your ability. What could be more painful for you? O son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore, get up with determination and fight. Om Jnana Timirandhisakana Jana Shalakaya Chakshu Amalitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prishtai Bhutle Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachani Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarni Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, if you're listening at the moment, we had a nice picture put in the comments by Sanjay. Thank you for putting that. And anybody else who happens to listen to this, please add a comment, even if it's just with your name, so that we know who is listening, and it helps me to feel the personal connection. So in this section here, Krishna is addressing some of Arjuna's concerns, and particularly here he's targeting the Kshatriya quality of honor, the Kshatriya quality of reputation. For a Kshatriya, his reputation is very important. He cares what people think, which is interesting. Because sometimes we say to people, you don't worry about what other people think, you just do what's right. And that's a general principle. But for a Kshatriya, what people think is also important. It's as a leader, a person's reputation is very important. Because if you have a bad reputation, people will not want to follow you. People will not trust you. An example that I remember hearing previously was, why is it that the Kshatriyas dress in such expensive clothes? Why do they travel in expensive vehicles? Why do they live in palaces and things like this? So one of the reasons is that when someone is seen to be successful, people are more likely to follow that person because they can see, whoa, look at this person, they're so wealthy and powerful. I should listen to this person because they know what they're talking about. Whereas imagine if you had a king or a ruler of the country that doesn't keep themselves very clean. They shave and they leave a little bit here and a little bit here. Their hair's, all over the place. Wait a minute. I can think of a few leaders of countries that hair's all over the place. But anyway, somebody who doesn't dress properly, who's got unmatching socks, their shoes are not polished, whatever it might be. If they don't present themselves very well and they don't keep themselves clean and presentable, if they're not showing that they have a degree of success, then people won't take them seriously. So this is not for the Brahmanas. We're talking about the Kshatriyas here. The Brahmana's quality is of renunciation. So if a Brahmana were to follow this example of living very opulently in a palace with very expensive clothes and expensive watch and expensive car and so on, then people would not trust the Brahmana because they'll think that, this person is supposed to be renounced, they're supposed to be a Brahmana, and yet look at them, they're living a very expensive life. Maybe they're not so renounced after all, and perhaps the advice that they give will not be unbiased because they're attached to their material situation. What they speak may be compromised because of their desire to enjoy life, to get opulence, and they might say something because it'll favor their material gain. They might say something that they think people will like so that people will give them money. So that's why for a Brahmana, it's different from a Kshatriya. A Brahmana should live very simply and also should show that, people should see that this is a renounced person. But for the Kshatriyas, it's different. The Kshatriyas need to show material prowess and success on the material platform, and that will give inspiration for the people that follow. When a Kshatriya is, successful in material affairs, the citizens will naturally be inclined to follow such a person. And that, therefore, the reputation is important for a Kshatriya. If you've just tuned in, please, put a message into the comments. Otherwise, I don't know who I'm talking to. I like to keep the connection nice and personal here. So we're talking about reputation, and Krishna is focusing on this point in these verses. Just go back to that screen again. And we'll go back to the translations. So we can see here in this string of verses, Krishna is speaking on this topic. Right from text 33, he talks about incurring sins by not fighting. And then he says, you will lose your reputation as a fighter. So this is also another element that the prowess of the Kshatriya is shown through his strength and power and ability to be victorious in battle. Aside from, showing the opulence, people will always speak of your infamy, and for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. So this is we've been explaining here. Jai Janava Mata Ki Jai. Thanks for commenting there. Gora Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. So this idea of dishonor is worse than death. This is particularly the mood of the Kshatriyas, and it's important, as we're discussing, that in order for a leader to be effective, they need to be trusted and honored. And so therefore the Kshatriya is very careful to maintain their reputation. And they take it very personally if anyone dishonors them. So people will speak of your infamy. The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you've left the battlefield. Sorry, I'm going to get disconnected briefly. So, Arjuna might be thinking, oh, I'm doing all these things out of good intentions. I have the best of intentions. To, not fight because I think, sorry about that, getting disconnected. Okay. So Arjuna's like, I have the best intentions. I'm not fighting because I have compassion. I'm caring for the people and the consequences of what will happen from this battle. But Krishna's explaining that, well, you might have the best intentions in your mind, but that's not the way that others are going to see it. They're going to see that you're just a wimp, that you're not doing your duty. You need to man up and be a fighter, because that's what you're here for. That's what I want you to do. And, if you leave the battlefield for whatever your good intentions are, your reputation will be ruined and people will think that you're just a loser. So Arjuna's not Krishna's not mincing his words here. It's described specifically here. Your enemies will describe you in unkind words and scorn your ability. What could be more painful for you? And then Krishna gives a call to action after that to say, look, if you win, you go to the heavenly planets and you get to enjoy life in the heavenly planets. If you win, you get to enjoy the kingdom. And if you lose and die in the battle, you still get to go to the heavenly planets and enjoy. So just fight. Just get up and be determined and fight. And he even says a specific word here, which I thought was interesting. Nishchaya, with determination, get up and fight. So the word by word says uncertainty. So, there's these different reasons why Arjuna didn't fight. And one of them was not sure of what to do. So here this word nishchaya is addressing that he's saying you should know that this is the right thing to do. Uncertainty. Make a clear decision to fight. So this is how, in these different responses, Krishna's addressing the specific things that Arjuna is talking about. So just previous to this section, Krishna is explaining that, Arjuna, you are saying that it will be sinful to fight, but I'm telling you it will be sinful not to fight because you're not doing your duty, and that's a sin. This is addressing the sinful aspect. Now here, Krishna is addressing the enjoyment aspect. They said, look, you want to talk about enjoyment? If you win the battle, you'll have the kingdom. So, you'll be able to enjoy that. Enjoy the earthly kingdom. Krishna is using that word. Bhakshase, you enjoy. Or you go to the heavenly planets if you get killed in battle, and you also get to, enjoy. Hare Krishna Bev, thanks for putting Hare Krishna there and letting me know that you're listening. Nice to see you again. So here's a couple of reasons. So we've had the sin, we've had the enjoyment, now the certainty. Krishna's unsure what to do. Krishna's telling him, look, just be certain that this is the right thing and just fight with determination. It's interesting that in the word by word, that certainty is not really translated, but in the word by word, it's the last word given. So here's three reasons. The other reason that Arjuna gives is degradation of the family. And I can't remember them all off the top of my head, unfortunately. But here he's clearly addressing three of the big ones: sin, enjoyment, and doubt. And he's making it very clear to Arjuna that you need to do this. Reputation is very important. So it's something for us to reflect on here. If we look at this theme of reputation, what do we want to be known for? What is the reputation that we stand by? And in every situation, it's different about how we approach things. But I think it's a very relevant topic to think about, that as history progresses, how will people perceive the way that we have responded to different situations? Will they look and see that, oh yes, look at these Hare Krishnas, they showed courage and they stood by their principles, and they they were the ones who always spoke up for truth? Or they say that, these people didn't have the courage to stand up for what was right. And in particular, the emphasis is on core Krishna conscious philosophy. We're not talking about, mundane issues like, oh, they should have stood up for the rights of the, I'm not sure, like animal rights or something like this, which, these are principles that are related to Krishna consciousness, of course, that we don't want animals or, to suffer or something. But the real core spiritual principles that are the root that solve all these other problems. Maybe environmental issues might be another thing. What did Hare Krishnas do for the environment? But if we really focus on directing everybody to chanting the holy name of the Lord, worshipping God, making offerings to the Supreme Lord, and really focusing on the chanting of the holy name, and giving the Bhagavatam and helping people to understand the Bhagavatam, by focusing on these core principles that Prabhupada has given us, it will automatically address many of these other problems. Of course, we see that was the initial focus that Prabhupada gave. And then later on, he also expanded that to introducing Varnashram Dharma. And in particular, you can see his application was helping people to live a more natural, rural way of life that can help us to, practice the core principles of chanting Hare Krishna, associating with devotees, making offerings to the Lord, taking prasadam, and studying the spiritual books. So I think we need to see, are we sticking to our core principles, or are we becoming compromised in different situations? Thinking that, we're doing it in the best. What's Arjuna sort of saying here? He's saying, I'm doing it out of compassion. I have the best intentions with what I'm doing. But are we sticking to what Krishna wants us to do, to stand and fight? So I think this is the reflection that I'm taking from this section here, is what is the reputation that we want to maintain? And what is it that we need to do individually and as communities, to preserve the reputation of Prabhupada and ourselves and Prabhupada's movement. Like I was listening to one of Urmila's recent classes where she's talking about how it's likely that in the future, and already it's happened in some places, Prabhupada's books may be banned because some of the things that are said in Prabhupada's books are not very pleasing or compatible with the modern view of certain issues. And so what will we do? How will we respond to that? Will we, what's the word, renounce what Prabhupada wrote? Or will we, how will we be able to explain what Prabhupada writes when it's not in line with the popular thinking of the time? Those are just a few interesting topics that I thought were relevant. I'll just unshare that because I can't read it when I share it, unfortunately. So let's see if I can just read it again. So, Janamamata, you've written. Okay. I think it's significant that the Lord spoke not only spiritual truths, you're not the body, etc., to encourage Arjuna to act, but he also used common sense, time, place, and circumstance, and social, emotional, and psychological evidence to convince Arjuna. Such a great teacher. We can learn so much from this conversation. Yeah, 100%. That was a really great comment. That Arjuna, Krishna is not just saying, look, you're not the body, I'm God, I'm telling you to do this, and so just do it, or whatever it is. He knows that Arjuna is a Kshatriya, and he knows that his reputation is very important to him. You can't take that away from a Kshatriya. It's like, if you want to motivate a Kshatriya, you just say, look, mate, you're a wimp. You don't know how to fight. Oh, boom, you fired the guy up, right? So in this way, Krishna is speaking to Arjuna, understanding that his reputation is very important. And he's saying, you want people to call you a wimp? Are you going to seriously do this? And all these guys are just going to think that you're just a little small fry? That you're just like this wimpy guy that's too scared to go to battle? And in this way, he's using the psychology that matches with the particular person to motivate him. Now, if you said that to some other people with a different temperament, they might just be completely devastated and they'll be just like totally demotivated. So it's really important to understand the difference in the mindset of the people that we're talking to and speak in a way that will inspire and motivate them. Sometimes, as Atmananda Prabhu had written, tough love, that you sort of you poke people and say, hey, what are you, wake up, what's going on? And other times, you might flatter them, like even Krishna does that too. You are the son of a great heritage. You are a king. Your forefathers were great people. And in this way, it's sort of flattering them. Oh, yes, I am a great person. Yes, then live up to it. So anyway, this is how he's speaking to Arjuna as a Kshatriya. But we need to understand that what motivates a Kshatriya man, may be different from what motivates a Vaishya woman or a Sudra man or whatever. Each person is in a different mindset, and we have to be aware of that and conscious of it. And as you've also mentioned, the time, place, and circumstances. The as I was talking about with this comment from Urmila, that people understand things differently than they did even 50 years ago. What to speak of 5,000 years ago. And therefore, when we're speaking this knowledge, we have to find the art of not compromising the principles, but explaining it in a way that people can appreciate it, given their mindset and understanding of today. So it's a really great comment of my Janavamata. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. If there's any other comments, please post them now, because I'm going to keep this class very short today, as I have other things to attend to. But thank you for all who have attended live. And if you're attending or watching this afterwards on the replay, please go ahead and make a comment if you have something interesting to add, because I do come back and check the comments and do respond, even when it's not live. Of course, not in speaking, but I'll type something in response. All right. Well, thank you very much for everybody who's attended today, and especially that thoughtful comment by Janava Mata. And I look forward to the next class to hear further about this amazing conversation in the battlefield with Krishna and Arjuna. Jai. All glories to Lord Krishna and Arjuna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Bhagavad Gita as it is, Ki Jai.